Let's get into the end of the day, and you know what? After 4 days of rain, it's finally quit. I'm not exaggerating. It's literally rained non-stop. Fortunately, I don't know if you can say that, but fortunately enough that it hasn't rained a lot in a short enough amount of time where we had water running and making those wonderful ditches, and that's when stuff really starts to get destroyed. So 4 days of steady continuous rain like we used to get back in the olden days, right? Pretty much undid the 3 weeks of dry weather and 90s we had throughout the month of August. The only thing that is really unfortunate about all this rain that we just got, A, we needed it the first half of August, not the first part of September. B, I'm a little curious as to what the valley looks like now as far as getting down there and making any hay, because that ground does not like to drain, and I just checked it the night before all this rain started, and it was getting to where I could have pretty much gone through and laid it all down, and I could have had it made in a couple of days. So we're working on the chisel plow. That's what I've been working on, and pretty straightforward. It's actually to the point now where I need parts. I ordered the new shovels. These are the old ones. Pretty straightforward. Makes sense, right? This is what happens when they've been run for a long enough amount of time. This is what you call an in-season quick fix, trying to get the last 10 acres worked up in the spring. And even that washer is all worn out weird. That's maybe 50 acres of running. So that's what I think of them. I'm definitely a person that resorts to the more aggressive route when it comes to working on stuff. Largely because instead of trying to back these off with a wrench and cutting your finger open, because what these like to do, they get nice and sharp, and you try to take them out with a wrench, they spin really fast, and that is literally, I can feel it, that is worn to the point that is sharper than the knife I have in my pocket. So that, actually I can feel it's trying to cut me. So these are all going to the scrap pile. I guess why I brought this one up is I wanted you guys to see what running these actually does. I do believe we ran these for 3 seasons, or 2.5 seasons. These are brand new 4-inch shovels. You can see how I'd call that pretty much paper thin. I don't have the new ones, otherwise I'd show you what the new ones are. They are thicker. I was told that what I'm getting is a 3-inch cupped shovel. So it's still going to have the point on the front, but this all the way up through here, it's actually got a cup to it. Being an inch narrower, I'm hoping that it doesn't rip this chisel plow apart quite so bad. Being cupped, I was told that they're also thicker. There's more steel there, and they're not quite as apt to fall apart quite so quick. See, I was having problems this spring. I didn't realize that these were worn out as bad as they were. I think we've only ran them for 2 seasons, but between rocks and the amount of acres we pull them through, yeah, it makes sense. It just, with everything else going on, it kind of slipped through my list of things that I should have been keeping an eye on for, off-season maintenance. But I was trying to do, because these were pulling through these square holes, I was actually going through with the welder, and I was welding a bead down across the face of them. It looks like it actually worked until I broke it, but that is what happens. These get worn through so thin, and then you hit a rock or you hit something that just isn't going to give, and it snaps the end off. So that is one thing that needs to be done to this chisel plow. The parts are in. Going to get them tomorrow. The parts for the grain auger are in. Also picking those up. Also picking up the spring for the combine. So today is it's Thursday night. For those of you keeping score, I think when was my last video? I made that video 2 days ago, and it's just muddy and wet. They're calling for 70s and 80s and sunshine for a week, week and a half. I don't know if it's going to change. Of course it's going to change, but it's going to take a couple days of warm weather and sunlight to get this ground firm back up. Wasn't planning on using the tedder as much as we probably will be now. I was only really planning on using it, you know, strategically on certain fields and certain spots. Now it's pretty much, we'll see what the ground does. But if the ground won't dry, you know, especially down where you got a mat of hay material that's blocking the sun and the heat, probably going to be windrowing it, letting it lay for a day, and then going through and tedding everything out. Because we have a lot of material out there, probably not as much as I would really like to see. Of course, it's the end of the season, and what can you really expect? But I'm not here to talk about hay, even though that's what I want to talk about. As far as the chisel plow goes, I cut all the shovels off, so that's that. Those will be in. We'll probably get those on tomorrow. Probably go through this tomorrow, and this will be done. And I probably won't look at this thing until it's time to hook onto it and go. So, my biggest irritation, my biggest problem with this piece of equipment, I gotta dig that out because that likes to fill full of dirt. And then it fills full of dirt. This comes around and shoves these up, and we'll blow these caps off. So I gotta do that when the video's over. This whole bar, this whole setup gives me nightmares. It's a poor design. It should have been underneath the frame as opposed to sitting on top of it, because just these 8 bolts, these 4 caps are all that's holding this machine up. When you raise it, when you lower it, and it shows. If we had a lighter tractor on the front, I mean, maybe it wouldn't have been such a big deal, but when you have the 46 that's running hotter than it was really meant to, when we are hooking the 82 up to the front of it, that's just not going to give. Those tractors are weighted down heavy enough. When you have a tractor on the front of this machine, that is not going to give. I mean, the horsepower is there, the weight is there. The tractor just simply, it's not going to pull it down. And when you go and drop this all the way down the ground, and the tractor's not going to give, all of the shovels, all the springs are doing some pretty wonderful dancing. Something has to give. Something is going to break. And the problem is, this thing I just don't feel is built that heavy. I mean, I've said it enough times. I'm really not making this video to harp on this chisel plow. It is what it is. I just don't think it was designed for what we're using it for, or what we're doing to it. It was meant for a tractor that would give. So when you start to get in some rough ground, some heavier pulling, the tractor will give and give the implement, you know, the brake. Right now, with a tractor that's just simply going to pull regardless, something has to give, and unfortunately it's turning into this machine. I was actually busting the shovels. You guys saw the problems I was having there. I was breaking those left and right. I was breaking the bolts out. I did end up breaking, I made a video on it. What did I do? No, I did not. I didn't break anything. The bolts actually vibrated out on the end. Had to have been the end. The bolts actually were vibrating out, which leads me to the next topic I'm going to talk about. These bolts down through here on each end in the center. I went through and hit them with Loctite. I did not use the red stuff. I used the blue stuff. I know the blue stuff isn't as quite as strong as the stuff like The red is basically meant that it is not going to come out ever. That is not my intentions. My problem is that I do believe that they are vibrating loose. I mean, come on. I mean, this thing gets just beat. It gets dragged through the ground. It gets dragged across the field, pulling through the dirt. I mean, it's gonna get beat up. The disappointing part is, in the past, these were grade 5s. We broke these in the past. I think this is we've destroyed that, bent this, I think 4 times now. So I mean, this has been bent back 3 times. One of these times, hopefully it never does it again. We're gonna having to have them just redo it, and I really don't want to do that. But the problem is, these bolts down in here, I'm pretty sure it was this side, actually fell out, which in turn allowed this to come up. So when you go to raise the chisel plow, excuse me, there's nothing to keep this bar from bending, and when you got the whole weight of the machine laying on it, it shoves that up. I hit it with Loctite. I took all these out. All of them are hit pretty generously with the blue stuff. The disappointing part is this bolt right here and another bolt on the other side were literally not finger tight, they're knuckle tight, where I could have just taken them off with just a wrench as opposed to the impact. I mean, there was nothing really holding them on. Kind of irritating. Part of the problem, the biggest problem we're having with the machine right there, is that it's literally tearing itself apart. So the Loctite doesn't do it, as opposed to going and getting the red stuff. I actually have the orange Loctite over there, and I have the impact wrench over there. For those of you who don't get the dry humor, welder, blowtorch. Like I said, I go to extremes rather quickly. I mean, I've actually given this thing quite a bit of leeway. But if it gets to the point where these bolts are really what are giving us the problems. We're not actually breaking these caps. It's the bolts, it's the hardware. Grade 8 bolts now. These haven't really been the problem. It's been these guys. But if it continues to be a problem, which I'll be watching it, you know, daily when I grease it, I'll be checking these bolts. But if they do start to act like they're going to be coming loose, even with that liquid Loctite, I'm going to roll in here, hook the welder up, and I'm going to go through and put a bead of weld right across, right across the nut, and that way, if it wants to break, it's got to break this bolt. It's done it in the past, but I don't know. I'm pretty much to the point where I'm going to start welding stuff together. So if you're going to break, you're going to have to really break. So as far as that goes, just a lot of little things. I mean, between the shovels and the Loctite and retightening those bolts, I'm glad I had the foresight to want to do that. New tires on it last spring. My biggest problem with that is, I think the reason I was getting flat tires left and right, sound irritated there, I am, is because that's a new tire, this is a new tire. I had, a flat tire on the 46, and I do believe I had a flat tire on the outer. I think one of the duals I had a flat tire too. Chopping corn heads. I do understand. I get what the chopping corn head does as far as processing the stalk, and that isn't the chopping corn head, doesn't matter what the brand is, isn't the problem. It's the chopping action. The knives are going through and it's cutting the stalks off nice and clean and pretty, right? The problem is that when you're running over those stalks, even in the spring, they like to go through your tires, and I've never had an issue like that in the past. Granted, we don't have the chopping corn heads. We just have the 360 degree chain rolls on our corn head. That explodes the top of the stalk. So I mean, it doesn't leave a nice clean cut. It actually breaks open the top of the stalk, so it deteriorates quicker. I'm a true believer in those too. I do like those rolls. the problem is when you have those little stalks sticking out of the ground that are clean cut. I mean, a stalk, I mean, they're tough. And when you're going through, granted, our tires aren't set up to drive down the center of the road, so I couldn't just avoid the corn stalks. The stalks actually went through and were destroying the tires. See, this was a brand new tire. And I think you guys just saw me do it. But we got that, unless that is, must be the only one, looks like it. We had a plug put in this tire like the day after I had it put on. I have an 80-acre field that was literally just a nightmare to get chiseled, because it was literally, I'd run for about 2 hours and then something would happen. Oh, it wasn't 2 hours, like 45 minutes, and then something would happen. And it come back and bite me in the butt, because I got down to the last 10 acres, said forget it, I'm done fighting it. The last 10 acres to chisel plow overall, I said just forget it. And I paid for it, because we went through, Dad took the 82 down, he worked it down with the 82 and the VT, let it lay, came back through, hit it again, so it was disked twice in the spring, planted into it, and you could tell clear as day right down to the line where I quit chisel plowing and where it was just disked twice. So different tillage practices do make a difference, timing and everything else too. I have this tire was tweaked, the frame was tweaked, I heated it up and I bent it back. I'm not really crazy about that, but this tire was rubbing on the frame right here a little bit. It's no longer an issue. I need a different chisel plow. We need a different chisel plow. We know that, I know that, you know that. I've been looking, I've been bidding, I've been on auction time. I bid throughout the summer. I probably bid on about 4. I bid on 2 inline rippers, which in hindsight, I'm kind of glad that we didn't get them. Not that I wouldn't want to use it. I do want an inline ripper. It's just if I'm putting the money towards any tillage tool right now, it'd be a chisel plow. That isn't me saying that I want you guys to start sending me links to chisel plows, because I'm more than capable of finding what I want, because I do know what I've been looking for. And the thing is, my problem with auctions, even the online ones where you can bid beforehand, is that you bid. I thought I bid pretty high. I bid up to, well, on the nicest one, it was $6,000, and we're not talking about a brand new machine. The machine was probably 8 to 10 years old. I bid $6 grand on it, ended up going for 85. The lowest one, I bid $3 grand, and it went for 30. It went for like 31.50. If I was actually watching that one sell, I would have bought it. That was one that it was a bid. I was down in the valley. I have absolutely no signal service down there unless I'm like literally parked up against the river. And it wasn't until I was heading home and I actually had cell service again, I actually saw that, you know, I didn't win that one. So I'd rather win big, or I'd rather lose big than lose little. So I mean, I'd rather lose by thousands of dollars and go, wow, I really under bid on that one, as opposed to losing by $100. So have no fear, this guy will be put back together. I'm planning on doing a lot of chiseling this fall, pretty much all of ours, just like we used to do. If we can get in and get as much of our tillage done this fall, that's the plan. Less work to do next spring. 76 probably isn't going to be on it too much, if at all. It's just I need to get it back up here because it's been sitting behind my machine shed giving me nightmares. So that's all I got for the chisel plow video. Hope I didn't deter you guys from ever wanting to buy one of these. It's just what you need for your operation, and we need something that's just heavier. What's my opinion on my grandpa's what was it, soil saver, a Glencoe soil saver? I liked it. It was an extended frame. It was supposed to allow the material to flow through it easier and not plug. That was a lie. It was a high clearance and it plugged all the time. It was built heavier than this, yes. It was a really heavy implement to be pulling with that 4440 of my grandpa's. It was about all that tractor could do to pull it. And it made for some really long days. So with that, thanks for watching, thanks for tuning in. I really appreciate you supporting the channel if you watched this far, watched this long. So until next time, take care, take it easy, keep in touch. Hopefully some haymaking videos really quick here. But until next time, I'll talk to you later.